up a demo.
All right, so with this building query call for Feb 12, 2021, 2122021, I think we're just going to demo the latest functionality of the Querymatic tool, which we'll need to name in the next couple, 4 or 6 weeks. Otherwise, we're just going to accept that as the name probably.
We'll just call it query. And
yeah, just query.
Put it all together. One day. But the Querymatic project, sure. Yeah, so this is going to be a bit of a sort of like close to the project baseball, talking through where we're at right now. Give a sense of how we work. We work over 2-week sprints. This sprint is really about taking our nascent workflow editor and giving it more context, being able to sort of see it do stuff and see it, and then get to it and from it from other screens within the app, trying to make things more navigable. So I'll share screen, but I'd invite others to sort of just interrupt and talk about some of the bits that are missing as you see them. This can be a bit freeform. So beginning at the beginning, data sets that update themselves. This is just a placeholder for now, homepage that will eventually become part of the actual like splash page of the app, and then you will get into the app itself. In previous meetings, we've talked about the new dataset button and this sort of like template side of things. But for now, I think the best place to start is to go back to our, that's already first bug found, to our collection view and sort of look through some of this. I think this now has like a loading state if I reload this. Is that true? Yeah, hey, look at that, loading. That was cute. This little hula dance, that's great. But you'll notice that a bunch of things have been refactored about our collection view. This is different from a collection view from say Query Desktop or others in that these new plus signs and play signs speak to the deployment of these data sets in terms of automation. What did I do? And so you'll see things jumping around a bit because some of this is still mocked up instead of actually talking to a backend. But this sort of indicates that you have a data set that has been deployed, meaning it's set up to automatically update itself, but is currently paused. This one indicates that it's both deployed and running. This one indicates that it's not deployed at all. And then we also have a column sort of talking about the last execution of automation with the number of the run, the status of that job, when did it run, how long did it take when it ran. And we have a lovely set of, look at this menu. Look how consistent this menu is with other menus and all this stuff I can't do, but I can hit this remove thing and I get this beautiful modal. And this is legit. If I click that, that'll actually delete stuff, which is great. This action cannot be undone. Classic. What a line.
Makes you wonder if we should do like one of those, are you sure, and like type it in, which we did in desktop, but I don't know.
For now, we trust them to be adults and don't push this button unless you really
it's a big red button.
Absolutely. Skipping over to, I think this is, so things that are actually wired up. I would say that I do want our filter thing back because I am using just like find on the page to find these. But this one, if we click into it, this is real. This actually has, this is actually a deployed script that shows that it is presently deployed. This status is actually set up. We've wired up a whole bunch of new things like being able to click these and have them take you to new spots, which is really fun and just like useful. And this script is actually hitting the City of New York's baby names API, which if we click on our new components view, we don't see anything. Is that true? I think I have to hit enter on this. No, I guess not. Oh yeah, did this not? Yeah, this doesn't actually have a body. So that's not really the fault of the programming, it's the fault of this data set. But we can actually see the schema here. The thing that I'm sort of most excited about is we actually have a display of this thing has been running 26 minutes ago, 17 minutes ago, 16 minutes ago, 7 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago, and it's not changing. So we actually have, this is for real. I unfortunately have to like show you backend code to sort of make this demonstrable, but you can see this is our backend server that will one day just be running in the cloud on your behalf, but these are the actual scripts running. So this is, what were we talking about? What data set name was this? CSV download template. So this was it trying to run, and here's the no changes that shows up in backend land, but in front end land, this is much easier to read. I can just see that there were no changes and that no commit was created. which I think is really exciting. That information is being stored and transmitted in the sort of syncable part of query and is set up so that when we launch this, it'll be really easy to move this information around the activity feed along with the data set itself. So query pull will pull the information about no changes or when something actually ran and failed. We can populate this screen even though that data set may not be orchestrated on that node.
Why does this look like it's sporadic? Is it just because the backend wasn't running?
Yeah, this is set up to run with a really high frequency, and I've been turning on and off my machine, so it's not very consistent. Yeah.
When I see this, it just came to mind that I would like. You don't really have a sense of how often this thing is running. Or I guess I would say you don't have a sense of the temporal distribution of these things. And I'm like, I kind of want the way you do like. Yeah, I kind of want like a timeline on the top where, it would just be kind of a summary and you could really see like any outliers. Like if this thing's supposed to run every minute and there were a gap, you could see that gap in a way that you probably can't see it here. I don't know, just thinking out loud, that just came to mind that like I would love to see, over time.
Asmer.
I would also add to that, like we will have different triggers. So maybe like color coded or stuff like that so that you know like which kind of trigger and when. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. That's a really great sort of starting point for a conversation about how that should all work in the background. We have this sort of division that I just sort of talked about between when I pull a data set, like, do I get all the triggers with it? Do I not? And if so, then we should be thinking about building triggers into the transform definition, which feels a little like a major change.
I think not.
Yeah, I agree.
mean, we had this discussion like back at Wise already, and I think like Querymatic is the thing that should kind of like serve the purpose of scheduling and managing workflows and stuff like that. It's only the script that lives with the data set because that's like tied to the data itself. Totally. Everything else is kind of like stuff on top.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. So yeah, but I totally agree with you, Chris. I think if we just listed that this is a trigger this is being run, and then there's a trigger that says run this every hour, just a reminder that I'm sort of setting this up to run hourly, might be a nice way of sort of seeing that. Because we could also theoretically insert like a manual edit when the triggers change, so that you could see, they'll create like a natural delineation. Speaking of manual edits, I can show you something while someone replies. Keep talking.
I mean, that's like logbook is a timeline. So there's other things you could show besides the runs of, I don't know, like maybe that's a dashboardy type thing that can belong like in whatever our theoretical like data set dashboard is this activity feed is like much more detailed and allows you to like look at the logs, but I'm thinking that there's some other view that just gives you like an overview of what's been going on that's less detailed. Interesting.
Yeah, it's worth thinking about like what happens from this screen. I think is a really interesting thing. Like the thing I did instinctively was try to click this.
Yeah.
And like I don't know what is supposed to happen when I click this. I'm guessing it's supposed to take me to the component view, right, and let me explore it. But I don't know.
If we bring in, I mean, I think it's totally reasonable, just maybe not right this second, but yeah, we should totally like, if the component view becomes explore the history of the data set also, where we already have all that in place in other iterations, we should totally bring it in here.
Totally.
Or it sends you to the version on cloud or something like that.
Oh yeah, to see it like published. See its published version. That's a whole other question, because in desktop.
Yeah, I guess it assumes that it's published, which isn't necessarily how it works.
That's a really good point,
we also have we also have the preview view of a data set versus what we have here in front on this preview on this view, which is like exploratory interactive view, I guess, which is different.
Totally. There's lots to think about here. The interplay between this screen and then the screen that we haven't built yet, but is this activity feed, which will be all of your data sets, right? So we've built this in the sense that you can obviously see that I just clicked it, but this isn't wired up to data yet. But this screen is the other place that would be, a collapsed, folded up view of all of my changes in one place, where you can imagine, this I think is the complement to some of this conversation of like, if I click this, do I just immediately get dropped into history? And as you're saying, Dustin, like if this was published, can I just quickly like get a link right there to the public version at that point in time?
I think
Tough
I
questions.
also, I think a button that's missing right now is the like, show me the logs.
Yeah.
Which would just expand that row and like let you browse through what happened.
We have a mock-up of that. Something akin to this. I mean, we'll make this prettier, but some idea of I can click this and then get the drop down of the run state that we're calling in the background, logs.
Can I do
Absolutely.
a quick tangent to like the published, non-published stuff?
Of course.
How do we get like a data set with some, I don't know, starting body started on the like workflows without publishing the data set? Because that kind of seems like you already pushed somewhere so that Querymatic can actually pick it up so that you can actually do workflows. The other alternative is like you create a data set for Querymatic, but don't really have a method to drop in a body and get started there.
I see what you're saying. So in a situation where you drag in a CSV file and then move that toward automation?
Yeah, and then start actually doing stuff with it. Because this is more like oriented to some sort of like trigger-based or temporal like updating of the data set, but doesn't necessarily mean that you'll actually like create your initial version of the data set right from the scripts. Like that would mean like, hey, I have to upload my CSV and then pull it in with a transform and then actually like change the transform to actually do real stuff with it. And that feels a little bit clunky, even though it's a pretty perfectly viable step. Nothing really special. It's just that like that bootstrapping process, at least
It's
in
a
my
little
head for
funky.
now. So that's what I wanted to kind of like pick on.
Get at. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I while you were talking, Esmer, I clicked to this data set, which is an actual data, like the real data set version of the real version of this is actually a data set that is not automated. Or at least it's not automated using query. It's automated using a Deno script. But just to compare, so this history and this history are actually the same. Is that correct? Do these match? Not exactly, but close. And so I think to answer your question, like, I think that's one of the upsides of pluralizing manual edits and automated edits in the same place. I think that they're pretty compatible, right? I could start with a manual body, push that data set up to cloud, assuming that the cloud infrastructure and the Querymatic infrastructure are the same. I could see that data set and go over to the workflow editor.
Oh, yes.
And start
That's
to like
totally. The only thing there is that you have to publish before you can actually like bring in your data set over
yes,
there.
I see. And your question is
which beats the purpose of like not being published from the start and maybe publishing later.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's we have an RFC around that talks about divorcing the notion of visibility from the notion of pushes. Which is I think we did ratify that RFC, and it basically states that just because you push something somewhere doesn't mean that it's public. Dustin, did you have thought?
No, I was remembering the RFC. Yeah, the one that basically things would be unlisted by default, right? Like, how YouTube or Google Docs works or something like that.
Exactly. And so like, I like the phrase that you'll sometimes see GitHub uses, not indexed by search engines specifically. So the links exist and you can see them as it stands right now, or we can actually have like full on access control where you need permissions to see the document. But if you give somebody a magic link, they can see it type stuff. So Asmer, I think that that's basically like part of our collaboration primitives that we need to sort of ship a little better. I can pull up the RFC itself, but we have thought about it. Does that answer your question? Or at least?
I mean, it does. I just wanted to kind of like mentally browse through the like notion of like pulling in a data set in the first place in there. I don't know, just kind of like jump at me, but I do know about all the underneath stuff that we have to do first.
Yeah, this is the one that talks about visibility versus we can do query access hidden and query access visible. Of data set, everything defaults to hidden, which is unlisted. And so I can still push a hidden data set, which would allow me to work on it on cloud. And then eventually we'd have these things, which I think this is now out of date. This was suggested future work. Yeah. So kind of bring anything else we want to sort of walk through while I have screen share up. We have this great workflow editor. It's dope. I don't know why this is happening. This is going to be interesting to think.
Look at that.
Just lots of steps. Yeah, but it's holding together. The app doesn't like explode. This is very odd. I don't know why this is happening. But
one more thought.
Mm-hmm.
The collection view, it generally shows all the data sets that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at least that's like the same way it works on desktop. But that doesn't necessarily mean we have a workflow for each and every one of those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It would be neat to kind of like delineate which are like managed workflows and which are just data sets that you have, but you could pull up into like workflow or something like that.
Case, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I have a bit of a plan for that. Flows right nicely into what I'm working on. Basically, we are going to be having, in order to get this collection view, we need a list of basically everything that exists in a version info plus the workflow ID, because workflows don't live in the query universe, but we need them in order to coordinate stuff in the querymatic universe. So basically the way that I surmise it is when we make that connection, when we ask query for a data set, a list of our data sets, and we ask querymatic for a list of our workflows, and we go to mix that information together so that we can send back what we need for this collection view. Basically, if there is no workflow ID, we're going to assume that it is manually edited, and we can show some UI. It won't say, hey, this specific commit was manually edited, but it'll say like this has never had a transform associated with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's what the gray circle is supposed to be, is just that it has no workflow. But I wonder if just not showing a circle at all and just having that like column be empty might be a better, delineator.
Yeah, a little bit more separation, or even a filter on top, like a toggle, like show me all, show me
for sure.
workflows.
Yeah. So is the idea of the blue triangle, blue circle, white triangle, blue eyes, white dragon, is that we, that's to just say like, hey, manually run this right now?
No, that's not a button, and that maybe
it's not a button.
Yeah, this
I
is a
thought it was a
problem.
button.
Yeah, because we're using like this blue is the same blue we use on buttons, and yeah, we should probably think through that one a little bit and only use blue where it should be. So this is not a play button. This is a indicator that says that it is playing.
Oh, that's it. It is currently. Oh, see, I think of it the opposite way. I assume if it's playing, there would be a pause button. Because when you watch TV, when the thing is playing,
the button you press.
The button you press is
it's
the
very
pause.
Spotify, right? And it's sort of
It's a question of, is it an action or is it a indication?
Yeah.
So this is these are meant to be indications, and maybe it should be some kind of subtle green or something. But the blue, like I also have a problem with the blue that's currently highlighting the left side bar menu because it's not a button.
Why is that happening?
And it should be, maybe we should do some other way to highlight things other than that light blue.
Oh, this one here, Chris. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if this would be too annoying, but I always think of something like running as having some animation going on, like rolling dots somewhere.
This one's not it's not running. It just means that it is going to run based on whatever schedule is. So the pause icon means that I have explicitly said I have set up a workflow on this, but I have basically put it on hold and said, don't automate this. Just wait until I say go again and then follow the schedule or whatever. But like pause, I think pause is something that would be rare. Like a pause data set would be probably more rare, unless there's some reason to actually put it on hold and just say, okay, I just want to, either I want to save my resources because I don't need it, so I'm going to pause it for a month, or I know it's broken and I'm just going to come back to it later, so I don't want to delete the workflow. I just want to pause it. Versus most of them should be playing because you want them updating, or should be, you know, play mode, which means that it is following the schedule or following the triggers.
Yeah, I definitely see the need of like communicating all of those things. I think we need to like have a debate about what the best way to indicate all the things are.
I think we
Yeah.
need a designer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say we need a designer to settle that debate.
We also did, Brendan and I did mention on our talk a way for us to navigate eventually when we are able to get live, or we are able to get live updates of, hey, this started deploying, and the way to basically push those to the top to say, hey, you know, this might have been 10th on your, this might be 3 pages behind, but as soon as it deploys, or as soon as the run starts, we're gonna, on this collection view, make sure that you see that something started happening.
Is that not just sorting by, you know, like if we sort by name and then we also just sort by last run, is that not?
So that's if, yeah, that is if the run is happening while you've fetched the workflow list. But if you are currently using the app, or you're sitting on the collection view and a run happens, the only indication that something's happening is that we're getting events from WebSocket, from the WebSocket. So we have to like interpret those events into letting the user know, like, hey, something just happened.
Yeah, basically there's some plumbing work to make sure that the liveness is recognized, basically if you are looking at this collection view at a given point, and this transitions into starting to run, that we have a separate sort of system for handling that situation versus asking the backend for what's presently going on. Just before we move on, Dustin, exactly to your point, I just wanted to show you what Chris had in mind for a presently running script. So it'll look like this, and you'll get like a spinning indication. So,
I thought I had seen something like that already.
yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
So that imagine this when a script, if you were looking at this view and country codes, just because it is presently deployed, imagine we make that UI a little better, but this thing is deployed and it's set up to a trigger, and then this thing starts to kick off. This would change to show this icon of running. And so you would see, oh, cool, it's presently running, and I can click that. And then ideally that would take me to a place where I can see the output of the script as it's happening.
Yeah, just real quick, again, not a designer, but I feel like the fact that there's a status on the right middle, you know, kind of implies that the stuff on the left is going to be an action.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, it's a hard problem. I don't know the right way to fix that.
No, but this is helpful feedback, right?
Yeah, for sure. I was also, I mean, just on that note, I can totally imagine if I'm actually like logged into the app, you know, a toast or a snack bar thingy when things actually kick off. If I'm actually just sitting here, like I could be over in a workflow editing something else, but I feel like I would want to know, you know, hey, your thing is running that you told me to run every minute. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if that would get annoying, if I would want to snooze them, or if I would, you know, I could totally see that thing, and then it has a little link on the bottom of it where I can go watch it. But if it's running every minute, that's not cool, probably. But
infuriating. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking out loud.
Totally.
Things. Like even on this screen, like if it's not in view, like there can be other one. If I have it sorted by name and like there's a thing running, you know, like can we tell the user somewhere that like, by the way, I'm following your schedule and there's stuff happening, even if it's not directly in this list.
Yeah, to me, that's like the thing that I was really left wondering about is like sitting here. The question that I keep asking is when's it going to run next? Right? Like, how do I know? Yeah. Like, and I kind of want to know like above, or maybe the like a grayed out, like next run in. And I think that's even more like real here when there's like, I have the last run and then like next run.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome if that like showed me, oh, that's like never because it's paused, or like you know, like on webhook. You know?
Yeah. No, and I think in earlier mockups there was something that was akin to that. It was trying to show it with icons, but it was a little too busy. But for sure, like we only know when the next run will be if it's the schedule. Otherwise, it would be, you know, useful to indicate somehow that like this will run on a webhook. So I don't know, like you can put a little shruggy face, like, or it's an on-demand thing. It's a, you know, lightning bolt. It'll run when something happens.
And maybe that's a broader point to make. We really only know consistently when it's going to run when it's scheduled on a cron job.
Yeah.
Any data set that is built from dataset dependency changes, we're not going to know. Any data set that's built from webhooks, we're not going to know. Any data set that's built from like a manual trigger, we're obviously not going to know. And so like, maybe we shouldn't be indicating to users like that question, even though it's kind of a burning question. Maybe it's like, when's this going to run next? When one of these things happens is kind of the summary answer. And that may be hard to capture in like, what is it, like 80 pixels of width.
I mean, I think some small icons with tooltips would be helpful there. But like you said, it forces people to learn the icon language. But you know, when you see them all listed next to each other, then you can get a quick visual pattern of all of these. You know, all of these are, most of them on this list are just going to be cron, and there's a couple that stand out because they have some special, you know, thingies on them. And I would expect to be able to like hover over the dataset dependency icon and be like, this will update when B5 population updates or XYZ updates, or maybe it's an and. I don't know if we should be able to set that up, but that would be kind of cool, which is like, don't update it until both have updated, or some kind of mixes of ands and ors.
Trigger logic.
Cool.
Asmir. Go, formula. Very fun. This has really already been productive. Anyone have anything else they want to talk about that they did this week? That is, we spent a lot of time looking at UI. There's all kinds of other cool stuff happening behind the scenes, but you know, unless you feel like reading code, it doesn't work so well on a Zoom call.
I have a quick question about how this works. Does this have like everything in your collection shown here, or like is it picking up everything?
Yeah, this is actually my actual local query nodes.
Gotcha. I wasn't
Like,
sure if there
even
was like
stuff that I don't have, like Paul Cracker e-scooter. That's not my data set, but
Yep.
it's here. It's working.
Okay. So I wasn't sure if that was everything, or there was like a category change or something like that.
Yeah. Casey and I came up with what I think is a pretty elegant solution for the like, how do we pair the list of data sets with the list of workflows? By sorting them both by reverse chronological order, we have two sorted set. We can do a sorted set union, which will be a nice time consistency pattern, or time. What do you call it? Linear time.
What's linear time?
The combination of the two things.
Kidding.
Oh, what is it?
Yeah.
The construct.
Sorry.
It's a construct.
That was a Friday joke.
Oh my God.
It's a week. It's a month 11 in quarantine.
Yes. I'm going to stop sharing because I feel like I have self-owned pretty hard. Don't worry, I'm not that worried about it. Yeah. Anyone else have anything that we didn't talk about? Questions? No? So from here, a little bit of signposting. Next up is user sessions and a whole bunch of time working on sewing in a login screen, the sign up screen, stuff that we've done in other places, but pulling it all together, making it uniform. The other thing we'll be spending some time working on is the actual documentation experience of our Starlark programming syntax and actually making that look upable, usable. So we're gonna be working on that for another sprint. And then the goal for 2 weeks from now is to get an actual usable demo into some of the hands of folks that we've been chatting with in the past and see what they think, get some early feedback from people who are not query team members, in the sense where we actually hand them the stick and let them drive. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at in terms of trajectory. but it's coming along. Thank you, everybody on this call, for all of your incredibly hard work getting this stuff over the line. Other than that, have a great weekend.